ended my video that said, hey, when you're piloting that spacecraft, be sure to remember all the physics you learned here at Albion College.
This is awesome. A News Channel 3 exclusive this morning. Two Albion College professors share memories about one of their students who's now flying into space.
It's amazing. And is the launch happening right at noon today? News Channel 3's Maria Serrano live now in studio with the unique stories from professors who taught the astronaut that's leading the mission. I guess they would maybe claim they taught him everything he knows, huh?
Yes, that's exactly what they did. It was so exciting to shoot this story yesterday. Josh Cassada is actually the pilot who's flying to space along with several other astronauts. News Channel 3 exclusively spoke to two of his former professors who gave us a glimpse of what kind of student he was during his years at Albion College. Cassada graduated in 1995, and hours from now will be launching to the International Space Station. At noon, astronauts will be leading what NASA is calling a science expedition mission. This morning, Cassada's former professors share unique anecdotes about him that paint him as a bright and hardworking student who stood out as a leader. Both professors tell me they feel like they contributed to Cassada's success to this day.
He never talks about himself. He wants to know how you're doing. He's just a great guy, and we couldn't be happier for him that he's going to go up into the International Space Station for 6 months. It's a long time, but he can't wait. We can't wait.
We got around and saying, Josh, what are your career goals? And Josh said, I'm going to be an astronaut. And so when Josh was looking away a moment, the other professor, Marty Ludington, looked at each other and we both rolled our eyes. And surprisingly, he did it. He was determined enough that he got the education and became a pilot, all aimed at becoming an astronaut.
Both professors say they were invited down to Florida to see the launch. Albion College students and staff are having a launch party this afternoon in support of Cassada. The spacecraft is scheduled to dock to the space station before 5 p.m. tomorrow.
A judge has dismissed charges against 7 people in the Flint water scandal, including 2 former state health officials blamed for deaths from Legionnaire's disease. The defendants right here on your screen: Jared Egan, Gerald Ambrose, Richard Baird, Darnell Early, Nick Lyon, Nancy Peeler, and Eden Wells. Judge Elizabeth Kelly took action today, 3 months after the Michigan Supreme Court said a 1-judge grand jury had no authority to issue indictments. All those that you see here have had their charges dismissed. Judge Kelly rejected efforts by the Attorney General's office to just send the cases to Flint District Court and turn them into criminal complaints. That's the typical path to filing felony charges in Michigan. In part of her ruling, Judge Kelly stated, quote, "Here the defendants were not charged by complaint or by a traditional grand jury indictment. Instead, the one person issued an invalid indictment, which was the basis for the issuance of an arrest warrant. Therefore, the charging process was invalid from its inception, and issuance of an arrest warrant following an invalid indictment is irrelevant to our consideration." So how did we get to where we are today? We are breaking it down. In April of 2016, former Attorney General Bill Schuette filed the charges in connection with the water crisis. In December of 2016, former emergency managers Darnell Early and Gerald Ambrose were both indicted on charges stemming from the crisis. In June of 2017, former director of the MDHHS, Nick Lyon, was charged with involuntary manslaughter. And Dr. Eden Wells, the state's chief medical examiner, was also charged with 2 felonies, including obstruction of justice. Early, Wells, and Ambrose have since had additional charges of involuntary manslaughter filed against them. Moving to August of 2018, Nick Lyons was bound over to trial in Genesee County. And 4 months later, Eden Wells learns she will face a trial. In April of 2019, Special Prosecutor Todd Flood is relieved of his duties by the new Attorney General, Dana Nessel. 2 months later, Nessel announces 51 total charges against a total of 15 former and current state employees have been dismissed. After 9 months of grand jury proceedings, and around a year and a half later, new charges were filed in January of 2021. In June of this year, the Michigan Supreme Court said a judge had no authority to serve as a one-man grand jury and issue charges against 9 defendants in the water crisis. Today, Judge Elizabeth Kelly seemingly agreed with the Supreme Court's opinion and ruled that the indictments were invalid and the charging process was void. I talked with Flint water activist Melissa Mays a short time ago. She feels the system failed the city.
It hurts. It's a kick in the stomach, and it seems like the wealthy and government officials have a totally different justice system than the rest of us do. But we in Flint, we're fighters. We don't stop, so we cannot give up. What was done to us was wrong, and what's being done to us is still wrong. So we have to stand together and fight, and we're going to work together to get through this and push in any way that we can. But we can't give up, and we can't just let this be. And nobody sees justice for Flint.
This has been a 7-year battle for the attorneys representing the defendants moments ago. I also talked to Nick Lyons' attorney, Chip Chamberlain, about today's ruling.
Look, in a democracy, there are ways to affect change when you disagree or object to what your officials do. And one of them is to vote them out of office and or pursue other means. But charging them with crimes, at least in this instance, we didn't think was the proper way. We still don't.
What do you say to the people of Flint, or what does Nick Lyon say to the people of Flint after all this is said and done? What's the response to the community?
Well, I think Nick Lyon feels badly for the people of Flint just as much as anybody else. What we as lawyers say, the people of Flint, is the criminal justice system shouldn't be used this way. There was no crime committed, and he shouldn't have been charged.
Now, just moments ago, the Department of Attorney General releasing a statement saying in part, quote, "There are not adequate words to express the anger and disappointment felt by our team who have spent years on this case only to see it thwarted based upon a new interpretation of a nearly century-old law." We are continuing our coverage on the judge's ruling, coming up all new on Mid-Michigan Now at 6. Reporter Alexis Ware will have a live report with more reaction on what all of this means for the people in Flint.
We're getting a first look at plans for a large apartment complex, which is proposed for downtown Kalamazoo.
Hundreds of apartment units in the proposed project are next to an empty lot targeted for over a decade as a possible site for a new downtown arena and event center. News Channel 3's Mike Kravsik joins us from the site of the proposed apartment complex as city officials begin to sign off on different parts of this project. Mike.
Yeah, Andy and Erica, this site would span 2 city blocks in the backdrop of many other major downtown development projects happening right now. The proposed plan would call for 2 separate buildings around 10 stories tall on this site. The city planning director tells me any apartments built here would not interfere with any possible plans down the road for an arena just blocks away. The speculation, though, on that proposed arena is still being studied to see if it's feasible. After over a decade of false starts and failed plans to build apartments on the Arcadia West side in downtown Kalamazoo, there now appears to be a winner.
This is a 2 or 3 phase project.
These renderings show Plaza Corp's design plans for a $100 million 400-unit apartment complex to be built on 2 pieces of land on Water Street.
It's a different type of project. It's not another exchange. To have it be walkable to campuses and to downtown, we think it's a good fit.
Plaza Corp's Andy Wenzel discussing the project at an August City Planning Commission meeting. Wenzel says the developers want to take down 2 buildings on the site once used for a car dealership.
This site historically was the Gilmore Auto Dealership, and they had buildings that were related to that dealership, body shop, auto repair.
Plans for a new neighborhood in this section of downtown now coming into place. 5 years after Plaza Corp acquired the property in a land swap with Kalamazoo County. That paved the way for the county's new $95 million Justice Center, expected to be done next year. Market feasibility study to examine the possibility is still underway. Last year, Southwest Michigan First and Discover Kalamazoo both announced they privately funded the study. And you're taking a live look at this proposed apartment complex site. This is one of the buildings considered blighted that would be taken down as part of this proposal. Also, this side street, city commissioners last night voted on a first reading to turn over the control of the street to the developer. The plans, the design plans and the construction plans would still have to be approved by the city planning commission. We reached out to Plaza Corp tonight for a comment and for more information on the proposals, but we have not yet heard back.